Yo, this is Pastor Data here with week one of our final series that we're doing for the year 2020, and it's called It's Personal. I can't think of a better way to wrap up the year than thinking about that statement right there, because man, right? COVID-19 has impacted us all in a personal way. Right? Some of us are being affected with going to school, having to do things online this way, not being able to be surrounded by certain people as much or that we used to, not doing certain things, right? Having new protocols, having to now wear masks or this or that, right? This is impacted. This year, everybody's been impacted personally. And things like this have begun to reveal our true relationships, and it's hurt really important relationships. And it's in moments like this that we're going through personal things is when we really need real relationships. Now, I want you to know that a relationship can happen both face to face and through FaceTime, like we're having, we're kind of doing now. We can develop relationships in little ways, but what matters right now is that we need real relationships. And that, I'm not just talking about real relationships with one another, I'm talking about also beginning to develop a real relationship with God. And if you think about it, some of you have probably been impacted so much personally, you might be afraid to admit that this whole season, your faith has been rocked personally. Maybe you're not where you thought you would be. Maybe you're in a place that you wish you weren't. You never could have imagined you being where you are right now. Well, the cool thing about this is that even if you don't know where you are or where you're going, right? The relationships we have matters most, but the most important one is the one that God has with us. And here's the thing, right? We've been saying that we've all been impacted personally. Well, listen, God knows you personally. And God is a very personal God. All right? What impacts you and what affects you affects Him. And one of the things that is so important to know when it comes to these relationships and when it comes to who we are and where we are with God, maybe some of you guys don't even know. Well, let me tell you something that God does know that actually makes the biggest difference. God knows your name. He does. When we see in Luke chapter 19, we see a crazy story of a guy named Zacchaeus who was going through a lot, who had a lot of things going for him and a lot of things not going for him. He was a tax collector, he had money, he had position, he had power. He didn't have a lot of friends, right? And even some of the tax collectors, right, they didn't even like each other to a certain extent. And here, he just felt like, man, I just want to see who this Jesus is. Climbed a tree, couldn't reach because the dude was short. Some theologians actually believe that he might have been like extra short. So we don't know. But we do know that out of a massive crowd, Jesus walks up to this one man that listen, this is how bad it is that nobody in town liked Zacchaeus, and the fact that nobody wanted to get out of the way, right? You ever heard when you take a group picture, like, yo, short people in the front, right? People saw Zacchaeus and they're like, nah, we ain't moving for you, bro. No, you can sit back there. We ain't moving for you. And here was Jesus. Out of all the crowd, he walks up to Zacchaeus and he says to him, Zacchaeus, get down from that tree. I want to go to your house tonight. The thing that was so shocking about that was that God knew his name. I'm pretty sure Zacchaeus was called a bunch of names. A bunch of names that I'm not even going to bother repeating. Probably some names that maybe people have called you. And Jesus, it must have been so refreshing to hear Jesus call him by his real name, by his actual name. And Jesus, that was a personal touch that he did. And not only did he say, hey, I want to go over to your house, but he actually said, hey, I want to call you by your name, and I want to go over to your house. See, sometimes a personal word and a personal touch matters. And I want you to know right now, wherever you are, if you're climbed up a tree or not, if you're at the end of a rope or not, listen, Jesus knows your name. He's still calling you, and he's inviting you to come down off of whatever ledge you're on and say, come here. It's important that I step into your house. It's important that I step into your heart. And guys, I want you to know that we have a personal God for these impactful moments. When you're going through it personally, well, it's good to know that we have a personal God. And what's important with our relationships, that we need to make sure we have real and develop real personal relationships with each other. And one of the things that we can do, one of the things that we can do to develop personal relationships, in fact, that's the thing we should do, because there's a lot of people out there, Zacchaeus is out there, that we as Christians need to model that same personal relationship with God. We need to model that personal love towards others. And so one of the things we can do is learn someone's name. We all love to be called by our names. Yeah, let's be honest, some of y'all hate y'all names, but okay, there's just something about hearing someone calling you by your name, right? There's a lot of people out there that are hearing a bunch of names, or they're saying names to themselves, but hey, we should, number one, make sure we're developing a personal relationship with God, and number two, make sure that we're doing everything that we can to model our personal God with one another through relationships. Because listen, it's with those real relationships that get us through moments like we're experiencing right now. That real relationship with God, real relationships with one another. It's a real, not fake, okay? Real relationships is what makes the biggest difference. So guys, I want to encourage you, hey, learn somebody's name, right? You know, see how they're doing, model that relationship. But if you want to, most importantly, I want you to make sure that you listen to God. He's calling you. He's calling you by name. He says, listen, maybe it's been maybe some months since we've talked. It's been some months since you've been to church. It's been some months since we really kind of had a little one-on-one. And God is saying, it's okay, I'm not calling you loser. I'm not calling you ungrateful. He's calling you by name. And says, come on, step in. I want to challenge you guys, pursue Christ, and let him lead you to model that personal love towards others.